With you. So the president last night laid out his concern. We have advisors on the ground, right? Trainers and advisors and people looking after our own people, but not boots on the ground. So here's what he had to say.
I don't think that unless a greater effort is made by the government to win popular support, that the war can be won out there. In the final analysis, it's their war. They're the ones who have to win it or lose it. We can help them. We can give them equipment. We can send our men out there as advisors, but they have to win it, the people of Vietnam, against the communists. We're prepared to continue to assist them. But I don't think that the war can be won unless the people support the effort. And in my opinion, in the last 2 months, the government has gotten out of touch with the people. The repressions against the Buddhists, we felt, were very unwise. Now, all we can do is to make it very clear that we don't think this is the way to win. It's my hope that this will become increasingly obvious to the government, that they will take steps to try to bring back popular support for this very essential struggle.
Well, hasn't every indication from Saigon been that President Diem has no intention of changing his pattern?
If he doesn't change it, of course, that's his decision. He's been there 10 years. As I say, he has carried this burden when he's been counted out on a number of occasions. Our best judgment is that he can't be successful on this basis. We hope that he comes to see that. But in the final analysis, it's the people and the government themselves who have to win or lose this struggle. All we can do is help, and we're making it very clear. But I don't agree with those who say we should withdraw. That'd be a great mistake. That'd be a great.
So, 1962, I had the wrong president. I'm sorry. That was President Kennedy in 1962 talking with Walter Cronkite on the lawn of the White House about how the Vietnamese government was oppressing a substantial minority group within Vietnam, the South Vietnamese government, the Buddhists. Remember the Buddhist monks who were setting themselves on fire in protest of this stuff? If you're old enough to remember, if you're not, it's in the history books and all the documentaries. And the president was saying, why is this government kicking out the Sunnis? Excuse me, the Buddhists. And if they get their act together and they bring in the Sunnis, I mean the Buddhists, then we'll be there. And at that point, there were 16,000 advisors in South Vietnam. 82 Americans had died already in Vietnam. 1962. Are we not making the same mistakes? There's a very thoughtful piece posted by Callie over on Democratic Underground. Why ISIS and not Boko Haram? Consider this. Callie writes, Boko Haram is a threat to the stability of Nigeria, and Nigeria is an oil-producing state, and things are getting worse in Nigeria because of Boko Haram. They've taken over entire regions, just like ISIS has. The Nigerian military is, in the words of a former British military attaché, a shadow of what it's reputed to have been. It's fallen apart, short on equipment, including radios and armored vehicles. Morale is low. The country's defense budget accounts for more than a third of the security budget of $5.8 million, but only 10% is allocated to capital spending, etc. In July 2014, Nigeria was estimated to have had the highest number of terrorist killings in the world over the past year. 3,477 people killed in 146 attacks. The governor of Borno, Kashim Shettima, of the opposition ANP, said, Boko Haram are better armed and better motivated than our own troops. Given the present state of affairs, it is absolutely impossible for us to defeat Boko Haram. These Boko Haram, of course, gained fame for kidnapping hundreds of teenage girls who had the audacity to go to school, and now they've been parceled out to Boko Haram senior members as sex slaves or second, third, fourth wives or whatever you want to call it. But we're not doing anything about a Boko Haram. I find this, I'm very concerned about this. We have not been attacked, to the best of my knowledge, by Boko Haram. You could say, well, they cut off the heads of a couple of American journalists. Yeah, and Saudi Arabia cut off the heads of 19 people in the previous 3 weeks, including 8 people who committed no violent crime whatsoever. One of them was a schizophrenic woman who was executed for being a witch. Yes, witchcraft is illegal in Saudi Arabia. They publicly behead you on a Friday afternoon in the stadium. Boko Haram, ISIS is just kind of the external arm of Saudi Arabia, at least philosophically. They're Safali, they're Wahhabists or neo-Wahhabists. Here Obama is saying, well, it's only 1,500 troops on the ground and, planes over. We're not going to get involved in this. So the question in my mind now is not what, but when. When is our Gulf of Tonkin moment going to happen? The people old enough to remember the Gulf of Tonkin are dying off or aging out to the point that they're not listened to. The people who read history have never been listened to. And I just think this is, in fact, it's worth revisiting. I want to play that Kennedy clip one more time, or at least the first part of it up until Walter Cronkite asked the second question. We can include Cronkite's question, the first. No, we can't. Okay. All right. So first of all, Walter Cronkite says, basically what's going on with Vietnam. And here's what Kennedy had to say in 1962.
I don't think that unless a greater effort is made by the government to win popular support, that the war can be won out there. In the final analysis, it's their war. They're the ones who have to win it or lose it. We can help them. We can give them equipment. We can send our men out there as advisors, but they have to win it, the people of Vietnam, against the communists. We're prepared to continue to assist them. But I don't think that the war can be won unless the people support the effort. And in my opinion, in the last 2 months, the government has gotten out of touch with the people. The repressions against the Buddhists, we felt, were very unwise. Now, all we can do is to make it very clear that we don't think this is the way to win. It's my hope that this will become increasingly obvious to the government, that they will take steps to try to bring back popular support for this very essential struggle.
So this was Jack Kennedy. I'm sorry, it was September 2nd, 1963. It was about a month before he was assassinated. We had 18,000 advisors on the ground in Vietnam. No combat troops on the ground, right? No boots on the ground. Meanwhile, I understand that the Obama administration is training 25,000 barefoot ninjas to go into the Middle East. No boots on the ground. No, it's a terrible joke. This is not funny stuff. So, I get it how the president is stuck between a rock and a hard place. I get this. I get it that, before the beheadings, Americans were opposed to taking on ISIS. Since the beheadings, which got wide publicity, they're in favor of it. I see this as our media ginning up war, basically. I mean, all the time that the media was talking about ISIS is cutting off Jim Foley's head, they were not pointing out that ISIS is a very fragile coalition, essentially. There are a lot of Sunnis who have joined ISIS simply because nowhere else in Iraq is there political space for Sunnis. And they're half the country. And in Syria, they're openly oppressed by the Bashar al-Assad regime, which is Alawite Sunni, Shia. And so you've got, even within ISIS, many, maybe even a majority of the people in ISIS are not fundamentalist Muslim crazies. They're Sunnis who, A, need a paycheck, which they are getting from ISIS, and we could be offering them a paycheck. Building roads, putting up schools, especially for girls. They want a paycheck, and they want some political place. And this all tracks back to L. Paul Bremer and George W. Bush and Dick Cheney kicking the Sunnis out of the Saddam Hussein government.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We de-Baathified Iraq, we de-Sunniized Iraq, and then we handed it over to a Shia government, and surprise, the Sunnis are PO'd.